what person do I want to assist? What change do I want to make? Start with service. It will be a lot easier to figure out your future if you do, because you'll know you're doing it for the right reason, and I believe you'll be more willing to figure out how to get there.
Look at your past, review and reread the book of your life from the frame of what was fulfilling and what did I regret. Saying, doing, thinking, acting, believing. And you're going to learn so much about how to create a bright future of more fulfillment and less regret.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, NLU Weekly Live Podcast, week number 111, How to Find Clarity for Your Future. Alan, I'm sure you get this question often. One of the questions I get asked most often when I go on podcast, particularly when the host is younger, is how do you know what to do in the future? How do you know how to plan for your future? How do you find your thing? How do you find your passion? How do you find your purpose? How do you design your future? Today, we are going to talk all about those things.
Shout out to Jim Rohn, who said, when do you start building the house? And he says, answer, once it's finished. And what he means is once the blueprint is finished. So a lot of people plan their vacations more than they design their own life, more than they design their own career, more than they design their own relationship. And if you've ever been on a vacation where you were winging it and you didn't really plan it well and it didn't go well, that's not what we want for your future. So we are going to rock and roll. We've got 5 points each. And Kev, let's hear it.
I'm ready to roll. I can say, and really think of it through this vision. Alan and I are blessed because we get to do what we love every day. So I want that to be the thought is we both decided on this future that we're living today. So that's the advice that we're going to give today with you. So Alan interviewed me when I was younger. And I talked about this last week, I think, but Alan had a podcast. He had me on his podcast. And I remember after the hour-and-a-half interview, I said, imagine if you could do that for a living. And our buddy Andrew was there, and he said, you can, right? But if you fast forward even further back into my past, I used to drive a truck. And when I drove the truck, I would get in the truck at 5:45 in the morning, and I would usually get out at like 3 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon. The entire time I was driving, I would listen to the radio. And we have been lucky enough since to interview Danielle Murr, and she has become a client and a friend at this point. I used to listen to Danielle Murr and the Hillman Morning Show, and I remember thinking to myself, imagine if you could talk on the radio for 4 hours a day, and that was your job. You had the weekends off, you worked the same shift every single day, you get to talk about cool stuff depending on what you're doing. People would call in, you got to kind of interview people. You didn't even have to be seen. You were literally over the radio. This was long before, I don't want to say long before, but this was before people were doing video radio and YouTube podcasts and stuff like that. I said, imagine if you could do that for a living. In order to predict your future, you must study your past. It all makes sense when I look back. I always wanted to talk on the radio. Okay, interesting. I also look back to the fact that I was rapping when I was in high school. I bought a microphone that I could plug into my laptop so I could rap. Interesting. Okay, now I talk into a microphone for a living. When I looked back, it all made sense. I think you can do a better job than I did looking back in the moment and saying, okay, if I look back into my past, what jumps off the page? What are some of the things I've said that were like, that would be really cool to do? I wonder how that person got there. Imagine doing that for a living. If you really want to design and find clarity in your future, I think you have to reflect and find clarity in your past. That is my first point.
So early on in my coaching journey, I would always ask this question. I don't know why I stopped doing this because this is a really powerful question. I called it the genie question. And so if you've ever seen Aladdin, the new one or the old one, you know that Robin Williams played the genie on the original, and then Will Smith played the genie in the new one. But essentially, you would rub a lamp and you'd get 3 wishes of anything in the world that you could have. And the question that I used to ask people was, if you could rub a lamp and a genie popped out, and you could have or achieve or accomplish any 3 things, what would they be? And the reason why I would do that is because it kind of gets you thinking, imagine if anything was possible. And if you think in the frame of anything being possible, that's a good start on how to get clarity towards your future. And so everyone out there right now listening or watching this, ask yourself this. If I could have, accomplish, or achieve any 3 things, if I rubbed a lamp and a genie popped out, what would my answers be? Dream body, dream relationship, dream business, dream lifestyle, dream home, on the ocean, lake, what country, you name it. There's so much that's possible, but the chances of you stumbling upon that are very, very slim. When I was in college, remember I was a freshman in college, and I think it was 2008, there was a website that I've talked about called Stumble Upon. It's kind of like a webcam roulette. In other words, I remember I was in my dorm, it's called Stanford Riley at Worcester Polytechnic Institute, and everybody would have their webcams on, and they would do this website would be called Stumble Upon, and you'd just do funny stuff. You'd just do funny stuff, and then I think it would be like every 5 minutes or something, it would go to some other random webcam out in the world. And I thought it was a massive waste of time back in the day, but I also did think it was funny, and a lot of people were doing it. And the reason why I'm saying this is that I think a lot of people believe that they might stumble upon their dream relationship, or stumble upon their dream body, or stumble upon their ideal future, or stumble upon the house of their dreams, or the business of their dreams, or the career of their dreams. And I just think that you shouldn't leave it to chance. Don't roll the dice when it comes to your own future. This is how to find clarity for your future. This is week 111. And Kevin and I want you to start getting clarity on what future you want so that you can use your mental, emotional, spiritual faculties to start actually creating that. If I were to say, hey, I want to build a magnificent home on the beach, and I would love to live there, and then I went to some lake and started building a home, you would be like, why are you doing that? I thought you said you want to live on the beach and the ocean, not the lake. A lot of us don't have a vision for what we really want, and it's not clear. And I used to do this all the time in my speeches. I'm going to do it right here. If Kevin and I both were going to do a 1,000-piece puzzle, and only one of us could see the cover, the vision of what it's going to be, and the other person couldn't see it, and we wanted to both go do the puzzle, and we timed each other, the person who could see the cover is going to be far more effective at putting the pieces, the border together, putting the pieces down. If you don't even know what the puzzle is supposed to look like, it's going to be really difficult to put the puzzle pieces together. Those puzzle pieces are what you do and don't do each day. And so if you want to start a company that helps dogs or helps animals, and then you start doing actions that have nothing to do with that, then you're outside of alignment with that future. But you can't know whether or not you're in alignment or outside of alignment until you have clarity. And you can't know if you have clarity if you're not contemplating constantly. And a lot of people don't believe in themselves enough to ask these questions of what do I really want? Not what do I believe I can achieve? That's the problem most people make. What do I really want? If anything was possible, what would I really want? Have the courage and the vulnerability to just ask that question. I know some people who didn't believe in themselves much at all, who set some audacious dreams, and those dreams, quite frankly, are coming true now. And they would never have come true if they didn't have the audacity, the courage, and the vulnerability to say, okay, maybe I don't believe in myself right now, but I'm going to paint this vision. I'm going to paint this picture. I'm going to look at the cover of the puzzle, and I'm going to figure out how to take that next step, put that next puzzle piece down.
To the next level.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite quotes, Alan, to your point, your reality becomes the parts of your imagination you hold on to the longest. Back when we were episode number 7, I was episode number 7 of the Hyperconscious podcast. This was my dream life. And I didn't realize it came with as much struggle as it did. I thought we'd be riding off into the sunset in a Mercedes by now, but sometimes you miss your target. You can't always have it the way you want, But to Alan's point, I didn't believe it was possible at that point. I knew I wanted it, but I did not yet believe it was possible. And I believe it was the late Bob Proctor who said people set goals in one of two ways. They either set goals based on what they really want or what they believe they can get, I believe is what he said. Mm-hmm. So make sure you're setting
Why did you set the goals if you didn't believe it was possible? Like what gave you the, I guess, yeah. Why would you set a goal if you didn't believe in it?
I don't know that I was at the stage where I was setting the goal to accomplish it. I think the way I was thinking was it would be really cool if. It would be really awesome if my dream life is the version of what I'm doing now, except it's my job. I remember it was episode 7. I hated my job. I wanted to leave. And I said, my dream life is to wake up when I want, go to sleep when I want, podcast with amazing people, spend time with my friends and my family, and go to the gym when I want. My dream life is to be my own boss. But I think that was more of me just kind of visualizing it. I didn't necessarily believe it was true. And it's way better than I thought. Even with the struggle and the suffer and the sacrifice, it's definitely way better than I ever thought. But I think we lose that. We lose those.
What made you different in this scenario? Because if you don't believe it's possible, you just said it anyway. I guess, why do you think other people don't?
I don't know. Maybe they're afraid of judgment. I wasn't afraid. Somebody asked me that on a podcast recently. They said, how long did you deal with the fear of judgment when it came to the podcast? And I said, honestly, probably less than other people. The length of time was probably shorter because I was already doing Facebook videos long before the podcast. And I mean, I had pictures of myself up half naked on the internet for my bodybuilding show. Compared to the stuff I say on the podcast, that's really nothing. That's pretty easy, all things considered. So I don't know. I think I felt like I had a community of real human beings that would value from me saying it. I think I've always tried to just say stuff that would add value, even if it was at the detriment of the way I looked.
When you thought about quitting, would you have been embarrassed if you had quit? I think that's why a lot of people don't set audacious goals, is they're so afraid to look like failures.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Were you afraid of that?
I don't think consciously. No, the thought process wasn't that deep. It was very much, this would be an awesome life. This makes for a good episode. I'm going to say it. I think that was pretty much it. I don't think I really didn't have the map for how it was going to happen. I was just like, getting to the top of that mountain would be cool. That was pretty much it. The mountain awesome. I'm on sucks. That mountain's cool. How do I get to that mountain?
Fire.
I think that was about it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So one of the other parts of my story, and if you're new, you probably haven't heard this. And honestly, if you've been listening for a while, I haven't told my full story in a long time. But when I was 26, I made $100,000 doing something that I thought I enjoyed. But what it actually took to make that $100,000, I had to give up all of my time freedom. I spent 10 months out of 12 months on the road, living in sketchy hotels, working in attics when it was 120 degrees, working outside when it was 0 degrees. It was very, very, very challenging. And I remember when I made the did you spill all over yourself?
A little bit.
I remember, and Alan's story is similar to this. When I made the 6 figures, I opened my pay stub and nothing really changed. It was like, cool, I have money in the bank, but I'm kind of miserable. And I feel like I traded in way more than I got. I feel like I just traded in 10 months of my life, potential relationships, a lot of fitness goals, a lot of life goals, a lot of certainty, a lot of time freedom for $100,000. I don't think it was worth it. And I had a client a couple of years later after I left that job who told me he wanted to become an orthodontist. And I said, okay, cool. Let's go through what you value as a human being. And we went through and I said, okay, how important is it to you to have freedom of your schedule? And if you want to up and travel or up and move, how important is that to you? And he said, oh, that's the most important. And I said, okay, just so we're on the same page and I want to make sure I'm raising your awareness. This is my job. This is what you're paying me for. If you want to become an orthodontist, that's going to take years and years and years of school. And then you're going to have to run the business by yourself for probably years and years. Is that something you want to do? And overnight, that person shifted and said, you know what? That's not necessarily in alignment with my core values. It's not necessarily in alignment with my core aspirations. It's not necessarily in alignment with my core beliefs of what I want to do. It's not aligned with the ultimate vision of what I want to do. See, it's easy to say, well, I want my future. In my future, I want to be wealthy. Okay, cool. Wealthy doing what? Well, moving, while serving. So we're talking about the levels of clarity that you're going to get in your future. So that conversation changed this person's trajectory forever. They went into real estate. Now they can go live wherever they want. My question for you, are you shooting at a target that you're going to regret hitting? I shot at a $100,000 target. I hit it, but there was a big part of me that regret that. And that's one of the reasons Alan and I try to talk about the future so much is we've found quote unquote success in our old lives, and now we have quote unquote success in our new lives. This version of success is way more aligned. We get to work from our homes. We have ultimate time freedom, except our schedules are usually pretty jacked, and Alan's is more so than mine, but that's all by design. We checked in and said, okay, what do we value, and how do we make that in alignment with the vision? One of the things that came out of COVID for me particularly is I remember before COVID, I was convinced Alan and I were going to have to travel all over the place every single week. And I remember I had a conversation with Taryn and I said, I will not travel more than once a month. Right? 1 week out of the month, I'll be gone. I will not be gone any more than that. Now, luckily, we can do more things virtually, but that was a core value of ours that we shared. I based my future on that. I want to make sure that I'm home enough for my family. That's very important to me because I didn't want to get to the target and regret hitting it. I didn't want to have the most successful podcast in the world with Alan and us being on the road every single week and my family and my health burning to the ground. So you kind of have to reverse engineer not only what do you want in the future, but are there things you're willing to give up? What are your non-negotiables? And what are the values that you plan on using to get there?
It's so important to understand that if you have a result that you want to achieve, there's a process that goes with it. And then there's a type of person and identity that you must become in order to do that process and get that result. And if those aren't in alignment, you're in trouble. So a lot of people are like, well, I want to grow and scale a multi-billion-dollar business, but I don't really want to have to work that hard. That's an extreme example, but those two don't work. Those two don't work together. They are inner civil war. So just understand that not only do you have to have clarity on what you want, but you have to have clarity on who you are, who you aspire to be. So my next point is the 5 W's. That's the way to remember this. Very simple. We learned this in grade school. Who, what, when, where, and why. Who do you aspire to be? What do you aspire to achieve? Where do you aspire to live? Who, what, when, where, and why. Why do you aspire to achieve those things? And when are you going to achieve them by? Is it this decade? Is it next decade? For me, there's a lot of different things that I want to achieve, and there's different timelines for each. So you have to be clear on the whole thing. And then on top of that, there's how as well. So who, what, when, where, why, and then how. Just doesn't fit as well with the 5 W's because obviously how begins with H. But a lot of people that come to me in coaching, some of them know who they are and what they want, but they don't know how to get there. Some people know what they want and how to get there, but they don't know where they really are. Low self-awareness. So you need to become the type of person who knows who they really are and where they really are, who they really aspire to be and where they really aspire to be, and then how to get there. Who, what, when, where, why. And if you're out there right now and you're not driving, write these down. Who am I? Who do I aspire to be? What do I aspire to achieve? What have I achieved thus far? Where do I aspire to go in my life? Where do I want to live? Where do I want to travel? All of these things are really, really important for you to understand. It's so fascinating. We go to school. I went to school for engineering. I studied engineering for 4 years to become an engineer. Yet we don't study success, but we want to be successful. So if I studied for 4 years to become an electrical and computer engineer, shouldn't I study for at least 4 years to become successful? So if you want a successful life, a successful relationship, a successful business, you need to study business. You need to study relationships. You need to study yourself. And it's like one of those things where it's like, we want these beautiful, bright, amazing, intelligent, wonderful, affluent futures where there's abundance and health and wealth and love, but yet we don't want to design them. We don't want to engineer them. We don't want to think about them. We don't want to contemplate them. We just think they're all going to work out. We think we're going to stumble upon them. So that's the 5 W's. Who, what, when, where, why, and then I'm going to add how as well. If you don't know who you are, where you want to go, how you're going to get there, why you want to get there, you're in trouble, and what you want to achieve. And that's really what we want to help you get clarity. I hope that you understand that in this episode in particular, these questions are going to create uncertainty. They're going to shake your snow globe, and then what lands will be more clarity. But you have to trust that it's kind of like renovating a house. It's like you have to tear down what is and then rebuild it back better. But that middle portion, the house kind of looks like crap because it's in the middle of a renovation. So what if your life is in the middle of a renovation? That's okay. We're allowed to think we have clarity and then ask these tough questions and then realize, I don't actually have that much clarity. I'm kind of lost. Okay, cool. That's all right. Let's get some more clarity now. And so the best analogy is the snow globe has the snow at the bottom. You shake it up, and then what lands is going to be a higher, better, more effective level of truth. And who, what, when, where, why, how is the way you get there.
To Alan's point, Alan, you mentioned renovating a house. I actually, while I was in the fire academy, I worked with, shout out to Big Z. Zach is the nicest dude on the face of the earth. He is large, tattooed, and terrifying, but the nicest human you'll ever meet. He gave me a job working with him and his buddy renovating a house. And I remember they asked, he said, do you have any construction experience? I said, no. You ever painted before? No, not in a long time. You've never like worked in home renovation? Absolutely not. Nope. Don't know the first thing about it. And he's like, all right, well, we'll figure it out. We'll catch you up to speed. I ended up doing that for a couple months while I was going through the fire academy. Long before that, before I was an entrepreneur, I remember, and I told you this recently, Alan, I was on this kick that I was going, and this was probably, 2010 maybe. I was going to buy a bunch of cell phone cases off of a website called Alibaba, where you can get them overseas, get them shipped over, buy like 1,000 of them at a time, and then I was going to flip them on eBay, and I was going to make some money. So there's a little entrepreneurial spirit there. Again, that's me looking back, but I'll connect it. There was a time where my grandfather left me a bunch of baseball cards, like thousands. And there was a time where I and my mom would look through these old books to find out what baseball cards were worth the most, and we'd sell them on eBay. I had a bunch of signed baseballs we sold. I had Beanie Babies. I had a bunch of other things that were left to me that I was trying to move and make money on. And then there was one time in the past, Alan, I know you don't watch a lot of TV, but there's the show called American Pickers. And my buddy and I wanted to get into something like that where we would go to yard sales and garage sales and find antiques and flip them. And I never told you about that either. And last thing, and nobody else really knows this either, I actually started somewhat of a motivational company before Hyperconscious. It was called BEFD, Better Every Effing Day was the tagline. But this is the point. Curiosity opens doors you didn't know existed. I had no idea I wanted to be an entrepreneur until I started doing entrepreneurial things. I had no idea that I enjoyed construction. To this day, I am super excited to go tear apart the studio. This Sunday, Alan and I have to go take apart the studio because we're moving out. I'm super excited to take down stuff. I love construction. I love working with my hands. I never would have known that if I didn't try it. The phone cases was entrepreneurial. The baseball cards was entrepreneurial. Looking at antiques, entrepreneurial. That has been something that I have tested over the years. So if you're curious about stuff, get out and try it. One of the things I think we put pressure on ourselves for is, well, I don't know what I want out of my future. I don't know what I want. Well, what do you like doing? What have you done in the past that you enjoyed? What's something you've always wanted to try? What are the common themes? I think that if you're curious, you'll land on it. And the other beautiful part is you'll realize, you know what? I didn't want to do that at all. I don't want to work in the restaurant industry. That sucked. Or I don't want to work in the landscape industry. I don't like being outside. I think it helps you figure out what you're actually meant to do. But all of us, to Alan's point before, it's like you don't want to reverse engineer it. You don't want to search for it. You don't want to design it. Sometimes the best way to design something is to figure out what doesn't work. And I think curiosity is the key to doing it. So all of those things I just talked about, I was curious about. How could I buy something overseas and get it shipped here and then flip it and make money? What would it be like renovating a house? That was one of my favorite things ever. They literally would just send me into a room. They'd say, all right, paint this room and then do this. And they'd leave. They'd leave for the day. And I was there by myself. It was awesome. And I made $600 a week, every week, no matter how many hours I worked. And I never worked over 40, so that was good. So that curiosity has helped me to be the man I am today. And it's definitely helped me find clarity for my future.
Hi, my name is Alexandra. I am 27 years old and I am in the second round of group coaching. I did it once and I fell in love with it. I got so much help and direction and guidance. Recently, I just did a one-on-one coaching call with Kevin, which it just set me on the right path. I needed that one-on-one time, and it really helped me. So I hope you guys consider on doing group coaching as well, because it will benefit you 100%.
Strong work, brother.
Man, thanks.
My next point here is about fulfillment and regret, and Kevin just touched on that a lot. And he touched on this in his first point too, about studying your past. Steve Jobs says you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. And you have to trust that somehow the dots will connect in your future, because that'll give you the courage to go off the beaten path. And so the curiosity thing, the study your past so that you can understand your future, very, very important here. I wrote fulfillment and regret, best teachers in the world. Best teachers in the world, in my opinion, fulfillment and regret. So look at your past and say, what do I regret? Kevin mentioned how he regretted being on the road for 10 months out of the year. And then future pace that, realized that he and Taryn had that conversation before COVID, and it was like, I'm not going to want to travel every week. So Kev, it's interesting because you would not have known how much you don't want to be on the road every month if you didn't already experience being on the road every month. And so that was a lesson that kept coming back because he regretted that. And so look into your past. What do you regret? Regret is the soul's recognition of misalignment with your highest core values. So if you have regret on anything, it's because you were outside of alignment. You were outside of alignment with a core value, a core belief, or a core aspiration. Kevin and I talked earlier on one of the podcasts where he regretted a time when he made fun of someone at their expense. And he'll never forget that. Why? Because he was outside of alignment with a core value. He didn't want to bully somebody. He doesn't want to belittle someone. We're trying to lift people up. We're not trying to belittle people. Right? So regret is such a good teacher. And we don't want to face it because we don't want to face the pain of regret. I regret poisoning my mind with alcohol. Hands down. That's why I don't poison my mind with alcohol anymore. Very last time I ever drank, I remember I was in Westerly, Rhode Island, Shot of tequila, and then I made a tequila drink after that. I think it was a tequila sunrise. I think it was tequila and orange juice. And I remember I'm walking out to my car, and I'm starting to feel it a little bit. And it's a dark night, summer night, and I'm walking to my car to get a towel, and there's this white picket fence and grass, and I just decided, I'm like, I feel weird. I feel it. I can feel it. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't aligned for me anymore. What's the point? And I remember I poured my drink out on the grass right near the fence there. I brought the cup, the solo cup, to my car. I have a trash right behind my driver's seat. Like, I put it in there, and that was it. That was the last drink I ever had, because I had the courage to face the fact that I was going to regret it. I took that shot of tequila, I had that drink in my hand, and I regretted it. I let myself down again. So why did I regret it? Because I have a core value of fitness. I have a core value of intelligence. I have a core value of brain health. I have a core value of taking unbelievable care of myself. I have a core value of personal development. Obviously, someone who's into holistic self-improvement, alcohol is probably not a huge part of their life. Okay? And so I was letting myself down. I wasn't maximizing my potential. That's me. So regret. Look back at your life and ask yourself, what do I regret? What do I regret saying? What do I regret doing? What do I regret not saying? What do I regret not doing? And then the other one is fulfillment, which Kevin already talked about. What was fulfilling? Renovating homes? Who knew? Kevin enjoyed it. Construction? Who knew? Kevin enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy painting. I painted up in Maine for a whole summer. What I did enjoy, though, is being on the ocean. Huge mansions, Damascotta, Maine, all summer. It was gorgeous. And okay, there's fulfillment. So maybe we're going to live on the ocean. Not even maybe. Emilia and I have a dream to live on the ocean one day. So there's so much to learn from our past, and it can give us clarity for our own future. If you feel fulfilled on a lake or on the ocean, now you can say, okay, why is that? I want more of that. I want to amplify that. If you feel regret and you don't want to paint, okay, maybe manual labor isn't for me. Maybe using my mind is. And so there's so much to learn about ourselves if we take a look. Fulfillment and regret are the best teachers. Look at your past, review and reread the book of your life from the frame of what was fulfilling and what did I regret. Saying, doing, thinking, acting, believing. And you're going to learn so much about how to create a bright future of more fulfillment and less regret. Now, every one of us is going to make mistakes. We're going to fail forward. We're going to have regrets. I'm not certain that I'll never digress again on the alcohol thing, but I know that I'm going to spend the rest of my life working hard to live more in alignment with my core values. And I'm coming up on 3 years now, which is the longest I've ever gone. And so that's awesome. But if I didn't feel the regret and learn from it, I wouldn't have done that. And so in my future, I don't think I'm going to drink. I don't want to drink. And so that's possible for all of us, but we have to learn what is fulfilling and what do we regret. And I do regret, poisoning my mind.
So many lessons from the past. So many, some positive, and you carry them into your future as strengths, some negative, and you do not carry them into your future at all. You leave them behind as weaknesses, but it's so important to reflect. 100%. And that's something we're blessed that we get to do so often.
Yeah,
You and I kind of I don't want to say we get paid to reflect because we don't, but we have the opportunity to reflect as often as we want. And that's truly a wonderful thing you and I have. I was on a podcast recently about podcasts, and I'm actually creating a podcast about podcasts called Podcast Growth University. It'll be dropping in the next couple weeks. So this was very interesting. I don't often go on podcasts about podcasting. And it's like my favorite thing in the world. I love talking about podcasting. I am so passionate about it. It's just the time flies by when I have the opportunity to talk about podcasting. And the person who was interviewing me said, "What advice do you give to early podcasters?" And I said, honestly, there's a million ways you can go here, but I think that you have to understand that you should start with service in mind. And I said, and this is the reason why, because it has to move you. Whatever you're doing has to move you. And she said, well, why do you do what you're doing? And I said, well, Alan and I are trying to be the people that we needed when we were struggling. We're trying to bring self-improvement and personal development to the masses because we believe our lives, our childhoods, our relationships, everything would have been better. We're starting with service. What is the problem that you want to solve? And who do you want to help doing it? Like, who do you want to help that? So I remember when I was younger, I only thought about the money. And that's what got me to that job. I thought about the money. How much money can I make here? How much profit can I make here? If you can decide on your future based on the purpose or the passion or the problem you're trying to solve, then everything, I'm not going to say everything will sort itself out. Obviously, you have to try to focus on making money. But if you lead with your heart, I believe that's the best way to find what you're supposed to be doing in the future. Because it's going to come from the past problems or the pain that you've had. What did you really struggle with growing up? Maybe it was being broke. Okay, maybe you want to teach financial literacy. Or maybe, again, we always use the dog shelter thing. Maybe you lived in a household that couldn't afford to take care of your animals, and that's something you want to do. Your purpose comes from your deepest pain. That was Evan Carmichael that said that. I believe that. I believe that a lot of your future can be taken from the problems that you've had, but I think you have to set it up that way. If you're only saying, okay, what do I want to have in terms of financially or materialistically in the future, that's not going to bring you to the future you want to get to. What problem do I want to solve? What impact do I want to have? What person do I want to assist? What change do I want to make? Start with service. It will be a lot easier to figure out your future if you do, because you'll know you're doing it for the right reason. And I believe you'll be more willing to figure out how to get there rather than saying, well, I want to make a lot of money. There's a billion different ways to do that. And many of them might end up unfulfilling and they might bring you somewhere you want to get, where if it's your purpose, it's your passion, that's alignment. Then we just got to figure out how to monetize it.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite things you say, Kev, is the purpose and the passion first and then profit third.
Peas.
Evan Carmichael, he's getting a couple shout outs. Yeah, you got to get your P's in order.
Get your P's.
He's getting a lot of shout outs on this episode. He also said money should not be number one, but it definitely shouldn't be number 10. It's very important, but it's not the most important. Shout out to Jim Carrey. He said that FFC, freedom from concern, is his purpose. So we all think of him as a comedian, Jim Carrey. And what he was really trying to do, he was trying to free you from concern. That was his through line. And he's since given speeches on that. He's like, I wanted to be what I needed, which was I wanted to give people an opportunity to spend some time free from concern. And that's why he was so funny, because when you're watching him, you completely lose yourself and you're just laughing and you're free from concern for a short time. And that was his main focus. And he says this in a speech. I forget which address this was, but he did a commencement address. He said this. He said, what you have to figure out is, what does the world need? What do they need that your talent can provide? That's all you have to figure out. So to Kevin's point, focus on service. What does the world need from your perspective? What breaks your heart? What does the world need? What did you need growing up that you didn't get? For me, holistic self-improvement would have changed everything. Kevin as well. That's why we do what we do. To provide guidance and be strong male role models when we did not have strong male role models growing up. And if that wasn't deeply meaningful to us, we would not be here today. So, next point, fulfillment and regret are the best teachers. There's two more teachers that you can learn so much from. Envy and admiration. So who do you admire and why? Who do you envy and why? And you got to be really honest with yourself about this. I'll tell this quick story. I came home from college and I was partying with some high school friends, and there was this young man who was extremely good looking, extremely jacked, and very charismatic. And I wasn't taking good care of my body at the time. I was drinking too much and too often. I was kind of skinny fat, and I was focused on my academics and having fun, but I was not focused on fitness. And I was so embarrassed being around this man that I actually left the room. And one of my other friends came over to me and said, like, are you okay? Like, that's how concerning it was. Like, are you okay? And I wasn't okay because I knew I was letting myself down. And I don't know if I've told the story or not. Maybe I have. But after that, I started working out. I started going to the gym in college. As a matter of fact, it was my sophomore year of college after that I started working out. And then by my junior year, by the tail end of my junior year, I was actually in pretty good shape, especially in comparison to some other people at that tech school. But here's my point. If I didn't leave that room with the person I envied, who was charismatic, good-looking, and quite frankly, just jacked and strong and successful, and I didn't go and contemplate, I went and I contemplated my own life, my own choices, I would not be where I am today. Fast forward, I met this same person, awesome guy, big fan, 10 years later at a wedding. And he said, dude, those fitness shows you do, oh my God, unbelievable. I could never do that. And 10 years later, the person that I was so ashamed of myself around that I had to literally leave the room was saying, I could never do what you've done. And at this point, I'd won shows. I did 41 modeling photo shoots. I was in shape. I was a fitness coach, fitness model, fitness competitor. And the person who 10 years prior I felt so small next to was literally saying, I could never do what you've achieved. And I was like, of course you could. You're still jacked. Of course you could. You absolutely would crush it. But that's my point. He didn't believe in himself to that same extent that I did. So I had built myself up. It took a decade. It took a long time. But I no longer felt ashamed of myself. And so vulnerably here, envy and admiration. I admire that person. I admired that person's physique. I admired their work ethic. I admired their charisma. I admired everything about their self-confidence and the way they held themselves and how much I respected him. I still do. And what that was really telling me, admiration and envy, I envied him and admired him. What that was really telling me was that I want to build a physique. I want to be charismatic. I want to be self-confident. I want to be respected and respect myself. I want to make better choices in fitness and in health. At the end of the day, it had nothing to do with him. It had to do with me living outside of alignment with my core aspirations, my core values, my core beliefs. So again, how to find clarity on your future? You got to know, what do you envy? Do you envy podcasters? Maybe you want a podcast. Do you envy fitness models? Maybe you want to be a fitness model. Do you envy people who are wealthy? Maybe you want to be wealthy. And then admiration. Admit it. Who do you admire? Who are your heroes and heroines? Who are the males and females out there that you absolutely admire? If you really let your ego down and just really was like, holy crap, like I have so much reverence for these individuals. There's something to learn in that. And most likely, whatever it is that you admire or envy, you want to have in your own future. Be humble, be vulnerable, be honest, be courageous. Have the audacity to admit, you know what? I envy that guy. And here's why. And then build yourself from that place. Build it up, build it up, build it up, build it up. Just like Kevin envied Danielle Murr. And here she is now a friend and client. Unbelievable. There's so much to learn in here. There's so much to learn in your envy and your admiration, in your fulfillment and your regret. And when you learn about yourself, of course, you're going to be able to design a much brighter future that's on your own terms. And I think that's really what Kevin and I want to help you do with every one of these episodes is like, how do you design your future on your own terms? The future that's unique to you. What's going to fulfill you is not the same as what's going to fulfill me or what's going to fulfill Kevin. And that's always why we do this holistic self-improvement thing is like, listen, we can sit here and teach you these principles all day, but at the end of the day, you're the only one who really knows what you want to achieve in this world. And we want to help you do that.
The last point for me is a little visualization exercise. Imagine 20, 25, 30 years from now, you're watching or listening to this in this moment, you're at Next Level Live 2052. Alan and I are gray, but we're still getting after it. And you're speaking at this event, and you're the keynote speaker. Alan and I bring you in, and Alan and I are on stage, and we're getting ready to introduce you. And we say, next up is blank. What are we saying? What is your bio? What have you accomplished? Who have you helped? What have you done? What are you specialized in? What have you experienced? Imagine that. That is a good way to picture your future. A lot of people, or some people out there say, write your own eulogy. That's a little dark for my liking, so let's just pretend you're on stage. Write your own bio. And this is the last thing I'll say. Oftentimes, and Alan, I don't know if you've ever witnessed this, but oftentimes when I am introduced, somebody will say, oh yeah, blank, Alan has told me all about you. And I always have a little joke. I say, oh, hopefully it's only the good stuff. Imagine how people would introduce you if you weren't there. Imagine how people would introduce you if you were coming to meet somebody that you had never met before. Would they say, well, he's so humble, he's so funny, he's so smart, he's so caring, he's a good listener, or she is so thoughtful, she's always thinking of other people, or she's so ambitious, or whatever it is. Think about how you'd like to be introduced on stage. Think about how you'd like to be talked about positively behind your back. I think those are two good exercises to take yourself out of yourself. Alan, we got to hammer because it's 6:42.
Okay, very last point, because we got to go here, is know your nouns. When we were, again, going back to grade school here, just like the who, what, when, where, why, and how, persons, places, things, and ideas. A noun is a person, a place, a thing, or an idea. Alan, we get it. Awesome. But seriously, when it comes to your future, 30 years from now, just like Kevin said, in 2050, or maybe let's do 10 years from now. So 10 years from now, it's 2032, and you're 10 years older than you are right now. I'm 43. Kevin's 43. Who are the persons, the people that you want to be surrounded by? What type of people do you want to be around? Do they have big goals and dreams? Are they aspirational? Are they inspirational? Okay? Persons, places. What places do you want to travel? What places do you want to live? Emilia and I want to have one on the East Coast, one abroad, and then one on the West Coast in terms of homes. Okay? And probably more after that as well, but those are where we're going to start. Persons, places, things. So what are your passions? Do you love Muay Thai? Do you love weight training? Do you love running? Do you love triathlon? Do you love archery? Do you love fishing? I love fishing. I was at the lake this weekend, and I was like, oh, I wish I had my fishing poles. I could see other people. There was a fishing tournament like that morning, Kev, and I just miss it so much. I really do. Who knew? I love fishing. I do. It's interesting. So much. So persons, places, things. What things do you love? Some people don't like fishing. Totally fine. Right? Kevin and I happen to love it. Cool. Persons, places, things, and ideas. Ideas. For me, I'll give you one, but this is the most important in my opinion. There's nothing more powerful than an idea that you work on dogmatically, that you work on religiously, that you constantly work on. This idea that you can become anything you want is something that I live and breathe every single day. This idea that you can become better every day. This idea that we can create an education from your pocket, from anywhere on the planet, completely free. The idea that you can get 1% better every day from your pocket. This idea that you are capable of far more than you're currently demonstrating. This idea that your future is bright. I know we got to go here. That's an idea. Persons, places, things, and ideas. Kevin and I believe that other people can truly maximize their potential if they're given the resources and the community and the guidance. And that's what we live and breathe every single day, including ourselves, including our clients, including our community, including our team, including the podcast listeners. That's what we believe. That's our idea that we spend our time in and invest our time, energy, and money into. So persons, places, things, and ideas, past, present, and future. You cannot design a future if you don't know yourself. And essentially, I didn't know this at the time, but how to find clarity on your future really comes down to how to find clarity on who you are and who you aspire to be. And it really comes down to self-awareness ultimately.
Strong work. Shout out to Next Level Evan Carmichael, getting a lot of love today from the
Big fan.
Next Level. I mean, he told us to change the name, so that's one of the reasons we are the Next Level guys. Next Level Nation, as you can see below, beautiful Amy, if you leave us a review, we will enter you into a drawing to win a $100 Amazon gift card. Shout out to Nick, who won last month. All you do, leave us a review, screenshot it on your podcast platform of choice, send it to Alan or myself, and we will enter you into a drawing. Last day of the month, which is 8 days from now, we'll pick a winner, send you a $100 Amazon gift card, and boom, you're off. $100 for free.
Huge mansion, beautiful Maine, in the middle of the summer, your nature, mountains, forests, awesome. 3-day all-inclusive experience. Private chef is on site. Sunrise yoga, sunset fires, tons of s'mores. Lots of s'mores. Under the stars. Tail end of summer, Labor Day weekend. 5 speakers, 5 workshops. A completely transformative event. Next level retreat. If you are interested, go to the landing page. I'm pretty sure Amy already put it at a link in the comments, and then it will be in the show notes as well if you are listening on the podcast right now. It is going to be the best weekend ever. Please join us. At least check out the landing page and see if it's for you. We have it's more affordable than you think. We have 12-month payment plans. You can, if you want to bring your intimate partner, there's a discount. Reach out to Kevin or myself if you have any questions as well.
All the s'mores you can eat if you come.